If you've never worked a night shift on a remote mine site in the WA desert, you don't know what true tiredness is. It's not just being sleepy, it's a heavy chemical exhaustion that sinks right into your bones around 3 in the morning. Your brain starts playing tricks on you. The massive orange-lit processing plants look like mechanical monsters idling in the red dust, and the empty desert beyond the perimeter fence feels like the edge of the earth. I was working as an environmental pump technician, or the pump guy, depending on who you were talking to, on a gold lease deep in the Western Australian goldfields. My job on night shift was simple, but dead boring. Pull the site Toyota Hilux out to the perimeter boundaries every 4 hours and check the pressure valves, pipe integrity, and water levels at the main tailings dam. For the uninitiated, a tailings dam isn't a nice, scenic lake. It's a massive engineered reservoir filled with the toxic, chemically treated wastewater left over from the gold extraction process. A grey, dead expanse of water choked with cyanides, heavy metals, and sulfuric acid. Nothing lives in or near there. No fish, no weeds, not even a stray water bird. If a bird drops down onto the surface of a tailings dam, it doesn't fly out again. The water is slick, heavy, and smells like your mate the night after his first FIFO check arrived. It was exactly 3:12 a.m. when I pulled the ute up to the western edge of the dam wall. The air outside was that freezing, dry, biting desert cold that cuts straight through your high-vis jacket. The main processing plant was a hazy, industrial orange glow about 3 k's behind me, its deep, rhythmic thudding vibrating faintly through the dirt under my boots. I left the ute engine idling, the headlights cutting a white path across the gravel track, and grabbed my torch and the clipboard. I walked up the earthen bank to the edge of the black water to read the primary pressure gauge on the intake pipeline. The air was completely still. The surface of the toxic dam was like a sheet of dark glass, reflecting the cold sliver of the desert moon. I clicked my torch on, checked the gauge, and scribbled the numbers down. As I turned to walk back to the warmth of the truck, a sudden, sharp prickle of unease hit me. That classic primal survival instinct. The sudden realization that the empty space behind you isn't so empty anymore. I stopped. I didn't turn around right away. I just listened. Through the distant, dull rumble of the mill, I heard a sound. A soft, rhythmic, heavy slosh, like someone dragging a heavy canvas bag through shallow water. I spun around and raised the beam of the torch, scanning the vast, glassy surface of the toxic lake I'd seen 1,000 times before. The light cut through the dark mist rising off the chemicals and locked onto something right in the dead center of the dam. My brain completely stalled. It refused to process what my eyes were looking at. Standing out there, in the middle of a 3-meter-deep reservoir of liquid cyanide, was a silhouette. It wasn't a floating log, it wasn't a shadow. It had the shape of a person. There was nothing beneath it. No island, no pipe, no debris. It was standing on the surface of the water. I gripped the torch tighter, my heart starting to hammer against my ribs. "Hey!" I shouted, my voice sounding incredibly small and flat in the vast, empty desert. "Security is on the way. Get off the lease." The shape didn't move. I adjusted the focus on the torch, narrowing the beam into a tight, blinding white spotlight, trying to force my eyes to find a logical explanation. Maybe it was a floating pipe. Maybe a piece of plastic liner had become dislodged and floated to the surface. But as the bright light hit the silhouette and the details cleared, a wave of pure, visceral horror hit me. It was naked. The skin was an unnatural, translucent, chalky white, completely hairless and slick with the grey sludge of the tailings. Its limbs were impossibly long and emaciated. The elbows bent at angles that looked broken, and the fingers hung down past its knees, twitching rhythmically against its thighs. It didn't have a human face. Where the eyes should have been, there were just deep, hollow, black pits. And its jaw hung open in a wide, slack, soundless void. It was staring directly at the glow of my 4-wheel drive headlights. I took a step backward, my boot sliding on the loose gravel of the dam wall, and then it blinked. Not its eyes, its whole torso rippled. The entity didn't swim, it didn't sink, it tilted its head, locked those empty black hollows onto my high-vis vest, and started walking across the surface of the water. It moved at an impossible, ungodly speed. A frantic, jerky, spider-like skitter, its elongated feet slapping against the toxic chemical crust with a sickening, wet, rapid, echoing sound. Slap, 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 covering the width of the dam in seconds, heading directly toward the bank where I was standing. The sheer wrongness of the movement triggered a pure animal panic in my chest. I dropped the clipboard, turned, and absolutely lunged down the gravel bank toward the ute. I scrambled inside, slammed the door, and hit the central locking button so hard the plastic creaked. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely grab the shifter. I threw the truck into reverse, floored the accelerator, and looked up at the windscreen. The high beams were illuminating the top of the dam wall. Two long, chalk-white, bony hands gripped the edge of the dirt bank. The elongated, distorted head broke over the crest, the sickly grey skin dripping with steaming chemical slurry. Those empty black sockets stared straight through my glass windscreen, 3 meters away. As the tires spun, spitting red dirt and gravel, a sudden overwhelming stench flooded through the car's aircon vents. It wasn't the standard sulfur smell of the dam. It was the smell of ancient stagnant rot, mixed with burning copper. A stench so foul and heavy it made my eyes water and my throat violently constrict. The truck caught traction. The Hilux launched backwards, swinging around on the narrow track. I slammed it into drive and floored it, the engine screaming as I tore down the dirt road at 90 kilometers an hour, staring into the rearview mirror. In the red glow of my tail lights, I saw the white silhouette step completely out of the dam. It didn't chase the truck. It just stood there on the gravel track, its long arms hanging limp at its sides, nor watching my lights disappear into the dust. I didn't stop until I hit the bright, floodlit security gates of the main processing plant. I practically fell out of the cab, vomiting from the residual stench on my clothes, and told the Nightshift supervisor that a line had ruptured out at the Western Dam, and that I refused to go back out there alone. They sent a team out with heavy machinery at sunrise to check the infrastructure. The pressure valves were completely fine, but when the supervisor checked the gravel track where I'd parked, he called me into the office. He didn't look angry, he looked deeply confused. He showed me a photo taken on his phone. Right where I'd dropped my clipboard, the ground was soaked with a strange, caustic grey slime that had eaten into the dirt, and embedded in that slime were a set of footprints, human-shaped, but nearly 20 inches long, with elongated skeletal toes that had burned straight through the red earth. I finished my swing 2 days later, hopped on the FIFO charter flight back to Perth, and handed in my resignation the moment we landed. People tell me I'm crazy for walking away from a high-paying mining career. They tell me the desert makes people see things. But I know what I saw. There are pockets of this country so remote, so untouched by time, that when we dig into the earth and fill it with our industrial filth, we upset things that have been sleeping under the sand for millennia. I work a standard council job in the city now. The pay is half what I made in the pit, and the hours are boring. I'm good with that.